I've read a lot of apocalyptic literature before movies, books, sci fi, but nothing quite prepared me for the imagery in Jeremiah chapters 4 through 6. It felt less like a prophecy and more like the unmaking of the world.
It's incredibly intense, isn't it? Especially that moment in chapter 4 where Jeremiah looks at the earth and describes it as waste and void. It's actually the exact same Hebrew phrase used in Genesis 1:2, tohu wabohu. He's essentially seeing creation being thrown into reverse.
That gave me chills. It's not just a war, it's a cosmic collapse. But let's back up a second. We're in day 220, covering Jeremiah 4 through 6. The context here seems to be a desperate last warning. What exactly is happening on the ground?
So picture a society that thinks it's safe. They have the temple, they have the rituals, and they have the history. But Jeremiah is screaming at them to break up your fallow ground. He's using this farming metaphor to say, you can't just plant seeds among thorns, you have to actually change the soil of your heart.
Right, he talks about circumcising the heart, which is a pretty graphic way of saying, stop pretending.
Exactly. It's about internal surgery versus external decoration, and the reason for this urgency is the foe from the north. Jeremiah describes a lion coming out of a thicket, a destroyer of nations. He's warning them that a superpower, Babylon, though he doesn't name them yet, is on its way to wipe the map clean.
And the reaction of the people is fascinating, and honestly kind of terrifyingly familiar. In chapter 5, God tells Jeremiah to run through the streets of Jerusalem and find just one person who deals honestly. Just one.
It reminds you of Diogenes with his lantern, or Abraham pleading for Sodom. If I find one, I'll pardon the city. But he can't, and here's where the critique gets sharp. It's not just that people are ignoring God, it's that they've become socially predatory.
That part stood out to me. The metaphor of the cage full of birds.
Yes, as a cage is full of birds, so are their houses full of deceit. He's describing the wealthy elite who have grown fat and shiny, that's the text, fat and shiny, by setting traps for the poor. They don't plead the cause of the orphan. So you have this moral rot that isn't just spiritual, it's economic. They are getting rich by exploiting the vulnerable, all while saying evil won't come upon us.
That creates such a cognitive dissonance. How do you exploit your neighbor and still think you're the good guy?
Because they had religious leaders telling them exactly what they wanted to hear. This is the core of chapter 6, and probably the most famous line in this section. The prophets and priests deal falsely, saying, peace, peace, when there is no peace.
That phrase is iconic. It's like a band-aid on a bullet hole.
Precisely. The text says they heal the wound of the people superficially. Imagine a doctor telling you that a gangrenous limb is just a scratch because he doesn't want to upset you. That's what the religious establishment was doing. They were normalizing the corruption, keeping everyone calm, while the lion from the north was already saddling the horses.
And Jeremiah is the only one willing to ruin the mood. It must have been agonizing for him. There's this moment where he cries out, my anguish, I writhe in pain. He's not just a messenger. He's feeling the blow before it lands.
That's the burden of the true prophet. He loves his people enough to tell them the truth that hurts. But by the end of chapter 6, we get this tragic metallurgical metaphor. God calls Jeremiah a tester of metals.
The refiner's fire.
But with a twist. Usually you refine silver to remove the dross, the impurities. But here, the bellows blow fiercely. The lead is consumed, the fire is hot, but the refining is in vain. The impurities are the metal now. God calls them rejected silver.
That is bleak. It implies there's nothing left to save.
It is bleak. But right before that final verdict, there is one glimmer of an alternative. Jeremiah 6:16. Stand in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths where the good way is, and walk in it.
And you will find rest for your souls.
That's the key. The old paths aren't about being old-fashioned. They're about returning to the foundational covenant of justice, truth, and mercy. It's an invitation to step off the highway of progress at all costs and go back to the ancient way of living right.
But they said, we will not walk in it.
They did, and that refusal is what seals their fate. It's a haunting reminder that peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of righteousness. If you don't have the latter, the former is just an illusion.
A heavy lesson, but a necessary one. We leave Jeremiah standing at the crossroads, watching the smoke rise from the north, wondering if anyone will listen next time.
Or if we are listening now.
Indeed. We'll pick up with the fallout tomorrow. Thanks for listening.
If you have been blessed by this, please like, subscribe, and share this joy with others. God bless.